Thank you so much, Amandeep, for that introduction. I'm delighted to be here. This is a fireside chat that we find very, very exciting as it's very, very close to our hearts, both in terms of what the UAE has established as a remarkable genomic asset and the global expertise that's in drug discovery that's represented by Professor Stuart today. So it's an honor to be here, sir. I thought that I'd just make a couple of introductory points. As a molecular cancer biologist myself, I've been following how technology and AI is impacting biology and genomics and generally R&D over the last 10, 15, maybe 20 years. And I thought that the opening statement I would like to make is that the future is now. It sounds a bit blasé, but actually in terms of the impact that AI and advanced technologies are already delivering in the spaces of biology, genomics, and drug discovery, actually the future is now. And I wanted to use just very quickly 3 examples of why it's now. And then I'll pass to our panelists for first an introduction to themselves and quickly to their careers, even though in both cases it's quite extensive, and then a few questions. So 3 things of why this discussion is not a discussion of the future, but rather a discussion very much of the present. In terms of radiology, AI has transformed radiology. There are hundreds and hundreds of FDA-approved radiology AI solutions. In terms of biology, the Nobel Prize winner, Demi Hassabis himself of DeepMind and the work of DeepMind has already predicted the structure of almost 200 million proteins in a remarkable feat that usually would have taken about 5 years of a PhD and postdoc to do with conventional crystallographic and biological laboratory approaches. So that is a torpedo of transformation and change, actually of such proportions that I don't think humanity has even still understood yet. And finally, on drug discovery, which is the subject of our discussion today, again, this is a discussion of the present. And I was just looking at a review just a few days ago. The number of therapeutic candidates that have an AI-powered component in their discovery and that are progressing into clinical trials is actually very, very notable. One cannot ignore that at all. It's a very serious trend. And these are molecules that are progressing into phase 1, phase 2, in some cases very close to phase 3. So this is a very actual discussion. I'm delighted to introduce our Senior Vice President of Operations, Albarah El-Khani, and Professor Stuart Schreiber from Arena Bioworks. I'll start from Albarah. Please, a quick introduction on yourself, and then I'll ask Dr. Stuart to do the same. Thank you.
Thanks. My name is Albarah El-Khani. I've been working for M42 and Mubadala Health for around 10 to 12 years now. It's been an exciting journey because what we're doing here in the UAE is a lot of global firsts, I believe. And one of the key successes that we found is partnering with global leaders within their domain has allowed us to really expedite the process. We in the UAE have a fertile ground to improve, grow, and bring innovative solutions to the UAE. But without the collaborations that we've sought over the years, it's going to be a challenge to reinvent the wheel. So we seek expertise like Dr. Stewart and people alike, world-renowned experts, who can help us with lessons learned from many years of experience, bring these challenges to the UAE to be addressed. We're very close to the Department of Health of Abu Dhabi, who supports these type of initiatives with agile regulations. They support us with innovation, and they give us the ecosystem to thrive and bring the best-in-class solutions to our population here in the UAE.
Thanks so much, Albarah. Prof. Stewart, you're one of the co-founders of the Broad Institute of Harvard and MIT, and then you have several decades of journey in this very complex space. Please could you share in a succinct way in this complex and exciting journey with us?
Sure, Lawrence. First, I want to say how excited I am to continue our discussions together and thinking about how to change the discovery of transformative medicines. It's been a real pleasure to get to meet M42 colleagues. I'm Stuart Schreiber. I am a biomedical researcher who studies the mechanism of human disease and searches for ways to use that information to translate it into new medicines. My journey began in the 1980s when I joined the faculty of Harvard University. Early in my career in the 1980s, I founded a first of 14 biotech companies called Vertex Pharmaceuticals. And we tackled at that point a problem that was guided by human biology called cystic fibrosis. And today, using insights that we can exploit more regularly, I'm happy to say that this is now a manageable disease. Along the way, as Lawrence alluded, we saw the biomedical ecosystem is working, but there were inefficiencies. And so that was 20 years ago. Several colleagues and I founded the Broad Institute, trying to make biology more collaborative, to bring in the human biology component and to translate to medicines.
People see somebody use it.
We're very proud of what we accomplished, but the truth is, we were not able to have the impact on novel medicines that we had envisioned. But we could understand why. And so that led to, with several colleagues who are here today, the founding of Arena Bioworks. Arena Bioworks is a company that aims to take these insights from human biology and translate to medicines using AI and using the remarkable advances in drug discovery that have been made. I hope I have a chance in this panel discussion to share with you a little bit more about how that works.
Thank you so much, Prof. Stuart. I'll just fly over the Atlantic back to the UAE now, and I'll ask Albarah to maybe comment on one of the key components that the UAE can bring currently in this discussion, which is a world-leading genomic asset, which is the Emirati Genome Program. Albarah has been with the business for long enough. He's led much of the Emirati Genome Program operation. So maybe a few comments, Albarah, from you on what this genomic asset is about.
Yeah, I think more important than just the genomic assets, I think it's the entire ecosystem that has been developed over a few years. So just stepping back, I believe just before COVID, there was a life science strategy that was developed by the Department of Health of Abu Dhabi of how they want to cultivate the ecosystem here in Abu Dhabi to really become a global hub for life sciences. Now that requires a significant amount of players to be part of this ecosystem. And we're fortunate at M42 that we have, let's say, jumped on top of that strategy, and we have started to develop our entire asset portfolio to cover the life science ecosystem. So if you take, for example, the early part of the discovery process, and then you move into clinical trials, we have a contract research organization called IROS who can conduct clinical trials in the UAE. Then we have all the clinical assets within M42, like the hospitals and clinics that can conduct these clinical trials. Then we have the bioinformaticians, and we have the physicians and clinicians who can look at the data sets that we have. But we're fortunate that we're custodians of a significant amount of data that can be aggregated collectively to expedite the process of discovery. For example, the Emirati Genome Program. The Emirati Genome Program is probably one of the first population genome programs with an aspiration to sequence the entire UAE national population. That is extremely powerful. We're already roughly around 800,000 into the millions. So we're talking about within 3.5 years being able to sequence 80% of the entire UAE national population. Now, why is that powerful? Because not just having the whole, having a specific number of cohort of whole genomes is important, but having all the clinical records that sit within the Malafi, the Abu Dhabi Health Exchange, we're able to now connect those and characterize the genomic data sets. Having partners like Arena and others alike, where we can now look at specific unique discoveries within the UAE population that can extend to the region, similar ethnicities, allows us to truly look at personalized therapeutics that hasn't been looked at before. The FDA and many other regulators in the world are looking at more diverse clinical trials, and every country now is looking at how we can truly look at the personalization of therapeutics, what we call even the hyper-personalization of therapeutics, And we believe with the data sets we have and the collaboration that we have, we can expedite this process. Lawrence alluded to the AI. The AI enablement is obviously going to allow us to use computational power and AI to, again, expedite the process. So a drug discovery, and Dr. Stuart is the expert here, but this drug discovery of 10 to 15 to 20 years can now really truly be brought down to, I wouldn't say 3 years, but maybe 3 to 5 years, based on the data and the technology that we have today.
Thank you, Albarah. I'm delighted you brought that because that was part of my next position of asking Professor Stuart in his 4 or so decades of active work and leadership in this field. That journey of multi-billion-dollar journey per drug that needs notoriously well-known 10, 15 years, and I might add, often fails at phase 3, by the way, which is dramatic, right? In 2025 to have major pharma industry failing at phase 3, not once or twice, but actually reasonably regularly. Could you just give us, Prof, a perspective, a condensed perspective of what really has changed and how Arena Bioworks and others in this field are transforming this rather inefficient and very expensive journey to date?
Yes, I'm very happy to do so. I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to reinforce what we heard from Albarah because his words are really profound, and I hope that they resonate with you. So I'm going to first start by saying, as I often say, the 21st century is the century of human biology. Now you may say, well, of course, it's always been that way, but it's not. Most of drug discovery begin with inferences from, we call model organisms, from flies and worms and mice. And we've learned a lot of basic biology that way, but time and time again, Lawrence mentioned the failure in phase 3. It's stunning how many failures, the high percentage of failures occur because the therapeutic hypothesis was not based on human physiology. And unfortunately, we only learned that 10, 15 years later in a billion-dollar investment. So today, with the kinds of things that Albarah is talking about, we turn this around. We begin with human biology. We begin by a deep understanding of the mechanism of disease. Now, how do you do that? Albarah alluded to, we've made progress as a global community with things like biobanks. We're getting more data from human biology. There's still a lot missing. And one of the things that's missing is to integrate these medical records, these environmental circumstances. They play a profound role. And then lastly, there's this magical moment in time today where new methods of generative AI and newer ones coming on board, such as causal inference AI, that allows you not just to take text and ask ChatGPT, you know, I have these symptoms, what disorder may I have? Or not just the protein language models and say, I have the sequence of amino acids, what is the structure? But to take multimodal data, genome data, protein sequence data, health records, what patients took, what medicines, were they effective, were there adverse events, what were the environmental circumstances? Integrate with AI in a way that has not yet been done. It will be a challenge, but it's imminently doable. We call that causal inference AI, to ask not what disease do I have, but what is the mechanism of the disease that I'm suffering from, and what is the chemical matter that I should make to treat this disease? This is an inevitability. This is the moment in time where this can happen.
Dr. Stuart, I just want to follow up on 2 points, and thank you for that answer, sir. One is just your quick comments on non-small molecule therapeutics in this perspective.
Yes.
Cell, gene, protein therapeutics. And then your comments also, and I'm going to ask Albarah the same question to you, sir, because you have a very good perspective on this second question, the importance of non-Western data sets in this discovery exercise, right? So your comments first, please, on the broader therapeutic classes.
Yes.
And then maybe a comment on this non-Western asset. Thank you.
Yes, Lawrence, again, thank you. I sort of alluded to this, but I skipped over it very quickly. If you understand the mechanism of disease in the context of human physiology, it gives you a blueprint, a recipe. What do I need to do to fix this disease? This is a whole change in the mindset, because so much of drug discovery today starts with, what do I know how to do? And then how do I fit that to a disease? Turning this around and saying, what is needed to fix this disease? Then, yes, you have the blueprint, but you need the capability of making drugs that fix the broken gene. And historically, we've had several methods of doing this. Today, with, again, modern technology in genome editing and gene therapy and cell therapies and engineering of proteins and combining these modalities, there's a path towards fixing almost any problem in disease today. So this is a critical component, again, makes it today is the moment in time. Now, you also asked about special assets from the Arab population. And it's...
Or generally, non-Western generally, yeah.
Yeah. So we've made a lot of progress in human genetics today, but we've been very narrow in the populations that we've explored. The Middle Eastern population has many unique features. We know there are strong heritable diseases, chronic kidney disease, type 2 diabetes, breast cancer, many others that are highly enriched here. We know they're heritable. The key clues need to come from things like the Emirati Genome Project. Now that the data are there, it's a matter of mining them, understanding them, and developing that blueprint into the form of new medicines, and then much more efficient clinical trials, guided again from information that comes from human biology to tell you what are the clinical biomarkers that will tell us rapidly whether we are on a path to a successful drug or not. I have some examples, some personal history. I'll just have to allude to in light of the time. But we had a disease of interest, an untreatable disease. We figured out the mechanism in the context of human biology, but also we found a simple way to measure in the urine and the blood whether the drug we had made was working. This led, in the US, the FDA, looking at our initial phase 1 data to say, go right to phase 3, skip over phase 2. It was so obvious it was working. Your prediction of doing it in not 15, 20 years, but 3 to 5, in this particular case, this was a drug, a concept that was started 3.5 years ago. And hopefully within another year of a phase 3 trial, within 3 to 4 years, a medicine will emerge for an untreatable disease. We need to systematize this and do this on a broad scale. And I think the non-Western data that's coming from human biology is critical to make that advance.
Yeah, thank you. Albarah, your comments on this genomic equity and sort of non-Western asset in maybe 2 minutes, and maybe a reference to the Abu Dhabi Biobank as an instrument in this.
Sure. I think Dr. Stuart very beautifully articulated the need and urgency for more diverse data sets. But I think he also alluded to the technology developing to a state where we can now have precision clinical trials, we can look at therapeutics for very specific rare diseases, and we can manufacture them sort of very simply and hopefully inexpensively in the future. So I think there is a decentralizing effect happening now with clinical trials and diverse data sets. The historical way of looking at clinical trials and finding participants for clinical trials, I think, is now becoming transformed in the way that we're finding patients globally. The interconnected data sets that's happening globally now is allowing us to have much more of a visibility across the world and address the inequity in the data sets that we have. We know that the vast majority of clinical trials are conducted on the vast minority of ethnicities. That is changing, and we are one of those players that's helping to change that with the Emirati Genome Program data set. But more importantly, this data set and sort of the globe has to connect these data sets to allow access to a very diverse amount of information. But going to the Abu Dhabi Biobank, which is an integral key component to the ecosystem of life sciences and drug discovery, for us, having the data is critical, but also having specific cohorts of interest to biotech and pharma, whereby they can do actual wet lab and platform discovery on those data sets is also very important. So the Abu Dhabi Biobank is a key component that's currently under commissioning that will look at rare diseases, look at oncology patients and so forth, and develop that rich data as well as rich amount of biological material that can be utilized by the pharma industry, by researchers and academia to help expedite the discovery process as well. So we're very fortunate that the vision is very clear for the Abu Dhabi Biobank. The ecosystem somewhat is complete now, and it's about now starting the discovery process within the UAE to support the entire region and global efforts in discovery of rare diseases and new up and emerging diseases as well.
Thank you so much, Albarah. We have 2 minutes left, and so we'll close with Professor Stuart. Dr. Stuart, in this 40 years of journey, excluding your initial education, of course, but and this 100 billion plus market cap and exits and everything that you've done and you've seen to date. In this discussion that has researchers, academia, startups, biotechs, pharma, big pharma, investors, government, CROs, such this complex stakeholder matrix, in 1 minute, what would be your advice to this complex ecosystem so that this opportunity that we have now in 5 and 10 years can really deliver what it can deliver?
Well, on the one hand, it sounds complex. To be honest, having been in it for a while, I feel like we have all the right connections, and the interactions with the different parties is key. I'm extremely excited by what I'm seeing going on at M42 to make the kinds of connections that are needed. I'm very optimistic that we're going to be successful. And again, it is due to the integration of human biology, modern AI, metadata, and the new kinds of modalities that we have in medicine. A very special time. Incredibly excited to be here to see it realize the success we envision.
Thank you so much, Dr. Schreiber, and thank you, Albarah, for the fantastic discussion. It's an honor to be here with you. And thank you to our audience for paying attention to this lovely discussion. Thank you.